All right, welcome back. This is the Authenticity Calling podcast. I'm your host, Ralitza Spassova, and I'm so excited to be joined today by Dr. Rebecca Reid. Rebecca is a functional medicine, spiritual guru, all over the map between spirituality and healthcare, and coming back to really share her message and her vision and her intuitive pull to answer the calling to do something super passionate. So I'm very excited to be talking with you today about dating.
Yeah, of all the things.
Of all the things.
Ask your doctor about dating.
Exactly. Actually, if
Yeah,
you're not talking to your
actually.
doctor about your dating life, you should be.
It's a new
Ab-
module they need to have in medical school.
Absolutely. Well, welcome back to the
Totally.
podcast. Rebecca,
Yeah.
we did do a podcast earlier. It'll be launched actually later this week. So I think
Beautiful.
this is a great way to dive in. We didn't really talk much about this part of your passion, but I'd really love to dive in because after the podcast that we recorded last week, we kind of came full circle, and I asked about like what are your passionate pursuits, what are you creating, what's coming up for you, and you mentioned that you wanted to hold space for a group around dating, and I think it's super juicy, and I'm excited that we're diving into this together. So do you want to share a little
Yeah.
bit about that inspiration and what you have coming up and kind of how we ended up here?
Yeah. It's kind of just come out of my own exploration of my own life, which as a woman, single woman in my early 30s, or used to be single woman in my early 30s, was just like so much deep diving into myself and my patterns. And then I was single for a long time and I came to this point where then I started dating, but I was dating from this like very, very different, like more conscious, more spiritual
Mhm.
lens.
Mhm.
And I mean, it was still really hard. Like, let's not take this off the table. Like, I'm like
Let's sugarcoat it.
dating. Let's not sugarcoat it. Like, dating is still like it's an emotional roller coaster. It is for anyone. But I was having way more fun while I was doing it because I was just seeing all these different ways of approaching the challenges in it. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm coming. Like, this person's being this way to me. Like, and I don't like it. But it was like really coming at it of like oh, is this actually a part of myself that's being mirrored back to me that I don't like? Or is this something that I'm responding to that I need to like find my voice and ask? Like, it was just like all
Mm.
these like kind of things that I was like working on in my own like personal work was like coming out in this space. And I mean, the most fun thing was that I kind of went through this like series of meeting of like quite like pivotal partners, and some of them lasted for 2 weeks, some of them for 2 months, but like some of them were just a day, like it was just like a single date, like, and it was like there was some sort of like magical transformation that happened in it. And it was just this like process of like, okay, I'm like growing and learning so much. I'm having so much more fun than I used to have dating. And I used to be like a lot of people. I'd get on the apps and I'd be like, oh my God, there's no good men out here. There's no whatever. I'm like, you can't find anybody. Like, oh my God, like, should we even be dating men? Maybe we should date women. Like men
Right.
are being left behind. Like all of these things just like were like coming up for me. And now I am partnered, and part of how this conversation came around for both of us is that we're both kind of in relationships that are about the same age, like not that old,
Yeah.
but feel very, very different than the previous relationships that we've been in. And
Yes.
the way that we've talked a little bit about how we're functioning in those relationships has
Mhm.
changed a lot. And so this desire to hold space for women around dating is like, oh my God, this can be so much better than than it has been. Like with a shift in framework into a more conscious, more spiritual framework of like, what is actually happening here? Like, what
Mhm.
are the dynamics of dating from a spiritual lens, from a more conscious lens, from people who are really looking to grow? And I find that there's so many women right now who are so awake, so conscious, they've done so much work. And it's like
Mhm.
this, like, heel in their thorn in their heel kind of around dating where you just kind of get taken down like over and over and over again because like there's some deep wounds that
Yes.
run in this area that are really really challenging, and it needs support, and it needs just kind of this support and container and structure and framework. And so I've put it together this container called Dating for Witches, which is not really, it's like such a provocative title, but it's really not sitting around like burning sage and spell casting. It's like mother wound, father wound, mirrors, like, like really like, what are your fixed beliefs? What are your fixed beliefs around men? Like really like going deep into yourself so that magic can happen. And I think the
Yeah.
same kind of magic that I've experienced, I think you've had kind of your own similar experiences around like how different it can be when you approach it from this different lens. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's where I'm coming from.
I love that. I absolutely love it. And it's so juicy and it's so exciting because you're right. Dating can be so much fun. I remember in 2020 when I came back to BC and I kind of like my whole world just stood still. And I remember thinking like
Mhm.
I was just coming out of an extremely toxic relationship for about 3 years. But again, as life is a mirror. And I want to go back to just defining that a little bit for people who
Mhm.
maybe don't know what that means, or
Mhm.
are new in this sort of like conscious spiritual space. I
Mhm.
air quote it because I think there's also a lot of spiritual bypassing that happens.
Yes.
And this is the
Yeah.
avoidance part. This is where the other part of the podcast, dating 101 in 2025.
Yeah.
But then, there's a lot of bypassing when it comes to dating as well. And there's a lot of, I think,
Mhm.
unrealistic expectations. And I think there's a lot of, I think as women, we lie to ourselves quite a bit. We're a little bit delusional with certain things around dating. I remember listening to this. I think it was like one of those Instagram posts, but it was an interview between a gentleman and a woman, and he was asking her like, "What is your ideal, perfect man, sort of like ideal dating type, or what
Mhm.
is your standard?" And she said, "Well, he's got to be like, 6 foot at least, and make $100,000, and da 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 da." And he said, "Do you know that's less than 1% of the population?" She said, "No way." And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's talk about that because
Yeah.
it's just setting and I don't love statistics, especially coming
Yeah.
from a place of, being that sort of life alchemist and knowing that once we find alignment, we will actually be able to attract exactly what is for us. So I'm
Mhm.
I'm all for that 1% being something that is tangible and attainable for us.
Mhm.
However, I just really want to talk about people's expectations and
Oh yeah.
what's generally out there and what's really important when it comes down to having that list and having those more qualities rather than material sort of identities, I guess.
Mhm.
And you talk a little bit about that too, but I think it's really juicy to kind of like dive into the reflections and how what
Mhm.
does life as a mirror really mean. And then you talked about the mother wound and the father wound, and that's something that I actually dove really deep into right
Mhm.
before I well, it's not right before I met this partner. We've actually been talking for like 3.5 years. However, it was right before I actually got out of my own way and allowed myself to actually see the full capacity of what our relationship could be once
Mhm.
I stepped into that version of myself. And it was through doing the work over years. I mean, I've done so much work around personal development, and I don't like calling it work, but it's really alignment,
Yeah.
right? Getting out of our
Yeah.
own way, being able to question the belief systems that we have. Something that you mentioned, like what is that ideal person that you see, and why are those qualities so attractive to you? And I love that mirror part because what are those reflections of us? And then how are we becoming the version of ourselves for that partner? Because all of us want a
Mhm.
king, but we
Yeah.
don't want to do the work to keep up the kingdom. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we talk about
Yeah.
talk about a lot today.
Oh my God, there's so much there.
So much there.
Yeah.
So let's talk
Oh my
about
God.
avoidance first. I think that's like one direction that I'm be really curious to go in. And
Mhm.
at what points, like what were you doing when you were sort of unconsciously dating? And
Mhm.
what were the patterns that you had at that time? And then I can reflect my own. And then like what had to shift, I guess, to get into that sort of conscious dating space. So if we could throw it back to like dating sucks 101.
Oh, dating sucks 101. I don't think there's like no woman in their 30s or like any woman that's on the market right now dating that needs to like hear that anymore. We're just like,
Yeah.
we are with you, we hear you. Um, but yeah, this like idea of avoidance. And I mean, it's avoidance feels like also like a bit of a strong term where it's like some of this is just like it's just so unconscious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're not like consciously avoiding like the mirrors, and we're not consciously avoiding like our own deep patterns. But
Mm-hmm.
I do find like what I'm seeing, what I hear from like my friends, from other people that are around that are trying to date right now is like you come up against a person and then you're like, oh, but I just like it's just like this again. It's like this quality in them,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I found this guy, he checks a lot of boxes, but he's avoidant and he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't want to do the work and he doesn't want to have deep conversations and whatever. But it's like, well, how confident, like we want that. Like I think we're seeking these very like spiritual partnerships, these very multi-dimensional partnerships with men that
Mm-hmm.
can hold us in a lot of like emotional complexity, a lot of spiritual complexity. Like we're out here, a lot of us are like out here building empires, you know, it's like we do need like a certain type of man to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But when I think of when that like that word like avoidance is like, okay, well, have you really gone and like how proficient are you at having those deep conversations? Like what quality in you is that mirroring back to you that you really need to go and look at? And like so many of these things, just to tie this kind of into the mother wound, father wound, are like patterns that have been really, really deeply ingrained in our nervous systems
Mm-hmm.
from how we witnessed like early our relationships being modeled for us as young children. And some of that's just like even like pre-verbal nervous system imprinting, like it's so deep in the nervous system it's hard to even know that it's there,
Mm-hmm.
but we are being mirrored that back to us all of the time. And we can take that information in different ways. We can take that information as like men are avoidant, there's no good men out there, like
Right.
oh my god, like this is just another disappointing experience that I'm having out here in this dating experience where it's just discouraging, it's hard, it's,
Mm-hmm.
or you can take it as like, oh wow, okay, whew, we are all mirrors for each other. He's marrying me, I'm marrying him, right? We're not, none of us like gets out of this
Mm-hmm.
without being mirrored. And if you're willing and you're willing to go and really look at those deep wounds, it's like, oh, in like it's I always like to ask myself the question, okay, I'm seeing avoidant behavior, like in what way am I being avoidant? Like am I
Yes.
also avoiding my deep pain? Am I also avoiding like being really really uncomfortable, having these like really deep, like the conversations that we need to have early on in relationships. Oh, I feel like I've made this mistake so many times. I don't know if you've made this mistake so many times, but like early on in relationships where it's like, oh, I don't know, it's too early to
Right.
have these like deeper conversations. It's too
Right.
early to set really clear expectations because
Right.
it's like it's uncomfortable. But I feel like with the last like few people that I've had relationships with, including my
Mm-hmm.
one, the one that I'm in right now, is it's like we just decided up front. It's like if we're engaging, we're doing this.
Yes,
Like,
yes. We're
and
gonna
we're
have
just like,
the vulnerable conversations. We're gonna see each
yeah,
other's ugly tears. We're gonna,
yeah.
yes, yeah.
Like we're doing this, and it's like it's uncomfortable, but it's kind of like, well, what's like the risk is that we find ourselves in this complacent place where the little patterns, the little things that have become annoyances have built up to the point where it's like a big thing, and then you either like, you know, have like a big go at it or you leave the relationship because now you're just like, well, it hasn't worked again. And it's like, well, have you really worked it? Like
That's
have
right.
you really gone inside and worked it for yourself, and have you been able to draw that out in others? And I think, I mean, one thing that I want to let you speak on this topic too, but just to kind of cycle this back to expectations
Mm-hmm.
too, there's like a few things that I want to say about that. And one of the things that I found when I was kind of re-entering dating in a more like conscious, open, spiritual space was that my expectations about what I wanted and needed like went out the like just like needed to go out the window.
Yeah.
And because it was I so I mean fascinating experience where I'm like, okay, we this is like a great one of like you can get what you ask for. So I like wrote a list and I'm like, I want a, you know, 6 foot tall man and who makes the same amount of money than I do or more
Yeah.
and is athletic and like respects my opinion and like takes my advice and like, you know, all these things. Like I just like had the whole thing. Like I had the whole thing written out.
Yeah.
And I like did this whole exercise, kind of alchemical exercise around it, where it's like, and then it's like, why do you want that? What's in the way? And I like did it all. And then like 2 days later, like that man showed up, looked nothing like what I was expecting him to look like. He
Yeah.
was like teleported into my dating app from outside my radius, and like, and it was just like, oh shit. And I had like a 2 month experience with this person before I realized that it's like, oh, this is not actually what I want and need.
You were like, I
Like,
manifested the perfect person. This
I'm like,
must
I
be, this
manifested it.
must
Look
be
at me
it.
go. And then it's like, oh, wait a second. This is mirroring back to me also this like preoccupation with money. It's mirroring back to me like just some of these like patterns in myself that it's like,
Mhm.
okay, like interesting.
Yes.
I thought that I wanted that, but actually like my what I needed more like spiritually was just to let go of a lot of that stuff. And
Mhm.
I think I had changed so much, and I think a lot of women have changed so much. Like, if you're doing this personal work, you're doing this deep personal work, like your personality has changed, like what you like has changed, like
Yes.
who you are as a person has like fundamentally changed.
Yeah.
And that's what I found with myself. I kind of like found myself looking around being like, whoa, like the guys that I used to think that I wanted to be with or that my like type, like I really just had to throw my like type out the window
Yeah.
and let the like I was interacting with dating through the dating apps and just letting the apps surprise me and
Mhm.
and just letting myself respond to people who responded to me and get into like little conversations with people, meeting some people in person.
Yeah.
And but like I had some incredible experiences with people that previously I would absolutely never have interacted with on the
Yes.
apps because I would have gone through and just checked them off the list
The
of like
list. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm like, their little boxes on their dating app like don't fit my thing. And
Yes.
so they're like, it's like you're swiping left, right? You're swiping left. Yeah. Like, so I'm
Or
like,
like
now,
checking the non-negotiable
or
box. Like
the
it's
non-negotiable
non-negotiable.
box. Yeah. Non-negotiable. You're like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
And like, even my current partner, it's like, if I had had those criteria in place, like there's no way that I would have interacted with his profile. And yet, like
Mm.
here I am, like 5 months into this like incredible transformative relationship with this
Mhm.
person because I just like I let go of all of the things that I mean not all of them, like don't get me wrong, there's like some things, but it was more like I want to feel like deeply loved. Like I want to feel deeply
Mm.
held. It wasn't like so much of the checkbox of like brown hair,
Right.
brown eyes, tall, dark, handsome,
Right.
$250,000 paychecks, homeowner, blah, blah, blah. It's like
Right.
never been
Mhm.
married. It's like all the things that you're just like going down and checking off.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was like tearing up the manual and throwing it out and letting myself just go with the flow. And the other piece of that was just getting really, really comfortable with this like spiritual paradigm of like divine timing, of being like,
Mhm.
when I like, and really just like knowing that the more that I work on myself, the different people are going to be attracted to me. And so it's
Mhm.
really about like, who am I being and who am I deeply being? Who am I
Mhm.
authentically, deeply being? And the like the
Yes.
deep, dark, dirty corners of who am I being? Because that is what is going to get attracted to us to be healed. And so the more we've kind of like swept the corners, swept the skeletons and the dust bunnies out of the deep dark corners, the more room there is for these like beautiful magical people to come. The more that that is going to get mirrored back to you
Mhm.
in this dating experience. And so
Mhm.
I don't know, that was a lot, but it's just there's so much there.
I love it. I absolutely love that because it's so there's a lot that we can go back and unpack. But I think for me the most interesting part is being able to actually take that personal responsibility and
Yeah.
say, okay, it's not them that are screwed up, right? There's not a problem with the world outside because there are all
Mm-hmm.
types of people, all walks of life. And I think most of us think, oh, because I haven't met him yet, my man's not online, or he doesn't
Mm-hmm.
exist, or he doesn't engage in this world, which might be true. It might be that, if you have a very certain vision, and a lot of people who are visionaries, they already know the feeling of the person who is meant to be with them. But as you said, they're not necessarily those physical, tangible, sort of 3D qualities that we typically look at. I think for me, through my dating experience, and it was really interesting how it transformed from 2020 to then doing the work in 2022, and then seeing the reflection in 2023, and then actually taking that personal responsibility and working those dark corners that you talked
Yeah.
about, get sweeping out the dust bunnies, because at that point, I realized what a fun experience And when I say fun experience, it was almost this like the surrendered part of me was
Mhm.
embraced. I was able to actually take that inspired, surrendered, aligned action to say yes to certain people just because I felt that pull instead of, as you said, checking the list of boxes.
Mhm.
And, it wasn't, what my typical, as you said, like I initially actually with this partner that I messaged him on Instagram and I was like, I saw your dating profile. Are you real? Like, where did you come from? Because a lot of what his is even his terminology, where the words that he used, the way that he spoke was very much like me. And so I was like,
Mhm.
this can't be real. And so it literally took me those 3 years to work my stuff because he was also, I mean, he's been on a personal development journey since he was a baby. His mom, is was a social worker. And so he constantly saw this kind of work happening in his life. And so for him, it's very natural to do the work, which I think is not so natural for most men. And it's true. I think a lot of women too, I think coming to that expectations piece, a lot of women have this expectation that all men or most men or some men are going to be emotionally intelligent and that they're going to have a really wide range of even spiritual attunement or experiences that are really deep and meaningful. And they talk about them and they, have these like deep dive conversations. And I think just statistically alone, I mean, I haven't looked up the statistic. That would be an interesting one to look up. But I think a lot more, not I think I know because I've done the research for my business about what I offer. There are 80% of women that are in this personal development space and 20% of men. So it's actually quite, it is quite staggered. And so I think when it comes down to realistic expectations, I think for conscious women that are dating and or women who are now starting to do the work and really want to see dating as this beautiful space of evolving together, it comes down to core values and that core value of personal development, that core value of evolution, which some people simply just don't care about. They want to be at peace, they want to live their lives, they're happy with where they're at. Ambition is not one of their goals or their values. And so I think we just have to really accept people as they are and then learn from exactly what you said, what we're actually being brought. What is God giving you in this moment for you to see and really appreciate and reflect back the parts of you that maybe you're hiding from yourself or that you don't want to be seen or that you project, because we project a lot. Oh, this
So
person is
much.
not this person is not that. But the truth is, we're not that. We're not bringing that. We're not completely honest in all of our dating experiences. We're not
Mhm.
generous in our the way that we move in life, right? So how do we
Yeah.
expect that to actually be returned to us? So it's quite interesting. I think, I had those moments. So I when I first started dating, I told myself, okay, before I actually commit to anyone, I want to go on 100 dates. I think I'd listened to a podcast or I had seen something, whether it was like in a movie or something, but I thought, oh, that's a really great idea because I don't actually want to commit. I tend to, because for me, and this is something that I realized is a gift and I have taken into my coaching, but I didn't realize this was a gift to actually use to hold space for other people to see themselves. I used to just see people's essence and I used to think like, oh my gosh, like you said anyone in front of me and I can fall in love with them because I just see the beauty and like, like the really the essence in people, the God-given gifts and the ability to step into that and fully embody themselves. But what that actually translates to in dating terms is you fall in love with people's potential, which
Mhm.
fucking sucks,
Mhm.
right? We cannot love people for their potential. People are
Mhm.
exactly who they show you that they are.
Yes.
And so we really need to, I think, take a step back. And even for people who, however you see the world, I know that, different people see the world very differently. I grew up with a mother who sees the world the exact opposite. She sees every single potential shadow and,
Mhm.
we'll bring it up. And it's like, no matter who you bring to her, she's going to just tear them apart. And so it's kind of a good thing if I look at it as a dynamic of maybe my mom should have been my best friend scrolling with me, then I would have
She
been
should have been
really
standing
maybe
in the corner when you go on all these dates, just like chirping in.
She's one of those naysayers. Like she's one of those people who said, why do you need to date? Like, why do you want to find somebody? You're 30 something, you have a child, focus on your child, focus on being a good mom, focus on your career. And I think that is the perspective of a lot of people. I think whether they've done the online dating thing or maybe not even online dating, but just dating in general, and they have decided that, you know what, I give up. I'm prefer to focus on things that I know can make me happy, that I can guarantee for myself. And so when we talk about avoidance, there's avoidance of doing the work, but I think there's also this sort of unconscious avoidance of doing the work by just simply saying, I'm not interested in dating. I'm happy all by myself. I call bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. I feel like there's so many people out there that can resonate with that. And I mean, let's just name this. It's like people are here to do different things. Sure, there's definitely some people to be that are here to like have amazing friend groups and work on their career
Totally.
and maybe like have a child by yourself. Like let's not like there if you're here for that, great.
And that's a
Like
beautiful thing.
carry on. And, and though, like if there is this like deep rooted desire for partnership with men, with women, with whoever, like this deep rooted like desire for love, this like deep intimate connection,
Mhm.
and because it's been so hard, you've built up this defense of like I've been here too, where I'm like I'm on top of the world, I have my career, I have my friends, I have all my hobbies,
Yeah.
like I'm thriving, I'm single, I love my life. And though, like when I'm really down and honest with myself, there is this like deep burning desire to
Yes.
be, for me, it's united with the masculine, but whoever you feel like you want to be united with in this, like,
Mhm.
it's such it's a different way to be connected to somebody than with friends. It's this like deeper, more intimate, like when you're entering into partnership with somebody, you are getting into it with your deepest, darkest
Yes.
things. Like that,
Yes.
when you create this super intimate container of safety, it is requires, well, it doesn't require, you can choose to do it with this level of intimacy where you can address these like really sensitive wounds of these like wounded inner child, mother wounds, father wounds, but these like deep parts of ourselves that
Mhm.
really long for healing and long for tending. And I think when we talk about this kind of like conscious sacred partnership, like that's really kind of what's on the table. And when you are able to go to those places, then you can go to ecstasy and joy and sensuality and passion and these things, but you have to do both. Like you actually don't
Mhm.
get to have one without having the other. And so
Mhm.
when we think about our life experiences of people who have kind of like written this off as like I don't really want to go there, and you built up a bit of like a castle in your mind around this idea that like actually this has just been super painful, and like we need to protect ourselves, like
Yeah.
too. It's like if you're in that space, it's been super painful, like protect yourself until you're ready, right?
Mhm.
It's like we're not saying just like go out there and jump in the fire of this. It's like
Or
there,
use
but
it as a rebound. Sorry to interrupt, but use it as a rebound,
yeah,
which a lot of people do, right? Oh, I
totally. Just
don't.
jump right back in. And like, I mean, we need to tend to ourselves, and we need to tend to these deep places of ourselves that sometimes need time. They need protection. They need us to step in at like these, young places too. They need us to step in and protect them and say, like, no, not now.
Mhm.
And like, if you're having that, then great. Absolutely respect that. And though, if you've been doing that for a long time and there's like two voices of this, like, yeah, I'm good, I've got everything. And like so many of us do, right? Like we're successful women in our 30s, like late 20s, early 30s. We've got careers, we have all the things, we've
Yes.
checked a lot of boxes. And for people that haven't been able to fall into the kind of partnership that they want, it's
Mhm.
like there's just a different way to go about it, which is what
Mhm.
we have both found that's
Mhm.
way more meaningful. It's way more like personally transformative,
Mhm.
whether the dating is successful or not, which I think
Yes.
is just like it's like there are no like missed opportunities. There are no bad dates
That's
because
right.
it just feeds back to you what you are and where you're at. And like, sometimes that's a really shitty bad date experience, or sometimes it's a one-off date experience that's really fun, but you're never, you don't want to be with them. Like,
That's right.
great. But you like, what are you learning? What are you, it's this constant feedback loop for personal growth, like really on the deepest level. And I think that, yeah, that's just like that's a big shift for a lot of people to go to those places.
Absolutely. And I know you also mentioned, like you are also going to be supporting people to actually create their dating profile in a way that really truly reflects what they deeply desire instead of those superficial things that we think we should post. It's like a picture of a man with a fish on every profile. Like
Yeah.
those kind of things. Like I don't know what
Yeah.
the typical thing for women to post is, just because I am the woman on the woman's side.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's really interesting as we actually evolve to see ourselves, because when we do evolve, we look at our profile and we're like, why would I ever write that? Or like, what was I thinking?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because we
Hmm.
just have a different level of awareness of ourselves again. And,
Totally.
doing that transformative work is so, it's so fascinating to actually see the rest of our world shift, whether you're dating or not dating, actually. So let's
Hmm.
just for the sake of the conversation, take dating off the table and let's just
Hmm.
talk about like, because I made a post about this actually, how triggers are such a beautiful thing and how if you're dating and if you're triggered, this is such a wonderful opportunity. And then I got a phone call and I didn't finish that post because I was talking about our podcast and the conversation
Hmm.
about, having this container. And
Hmm.
a lot of people wrote to that post like, this isn't just for people who are dating. This is someone in a
Hmm.
30-year relationship, 40-year relationship. Like these things are so important to actually to be able to maintain that 30-year relationship, as it starts
Hmm.
with us.
Hmm.
And to be able to be sort of vulnerable and to be able to say, I'm not bringing my best self today, and to
Hmm.
have a partner that says it's okay. Like I get that, I see that. Obviously if someone really knows us, they know before we
Hmm.
know that we're not in our best headspace or heart space or whatever that looks like. But it's like getting to know someone's triggers and recognizing where our triggers actually feed into their triggers, which is the fascinating thing that happens with divine union, right?
Hmm.
My partner actually the other day asked me, do you feel like you really understand me? Like, do you really feel like you get, how I move and shake and how I do things? And so I kind of, I answered in a way, and it was very much a reflection of where I'm at as well and where I see
Hmm.
myself. Normally I wouldn't share transparently and vulnerably, the thing that I shared that specific night. And, I said, I actually almost didn't send that message because I thought, I know how you're going to react because I know you so well, because you've shared so many of your stories of your past and your experiences and your expectations and kind of like what you appreciate and what you don't appreciate so much. And so I said, it really took me stepping into my growth edge to even write that, let alone then to know your triggers and know that your response might be the exact opposite response of what I want. But I had to choose my growth edge and embracing that and stepping vulnerably into that communication, because it's just so much of the raw, real, honest truth. And
Hmm.
it felt like this massive weight was just on my chest. And I worked it before I sent the message. And it was really like, what is really coming through? And I'm like sweating now talking about it.
Like moving some serious energy.
Energy is moving, but
Yeah.
no, but it's true. And it's like,
Hmm.
we want to be able to step into that growth edge, into that vulnerability, to really embrace, as you said, those little dust bunnies together. And to be able
Hmm.
to choose a partner who, whether they're doing their work or not, can at least hold the space for that and is not going to be triggered by our vulnerability and then respond in their typical response, because that just means, oh, we are one of their triggers for them to work that thing within themselves. And so if we have a conscious conversation and we really have divine union and we really have two people that are willing and able to actually take this and take personal responsibility and step back and say, okay, wait a second. This was my response back then. Do I want a
Hmm.
different relationship now?
Yeah.
If I want a different relationship now, I have to be willing to actually step into this from a different perspective or in a different way. Right. And
Yeah.
so it's like, okay, I'm not the most important person in the room. I have to consider every perspective and every person. How am I showing up for my partner right now? Am I going to show up in my trigger and my typical response? Or am I really going to hold space and recognize like this is actually their growth edge and embrace it, because you can very easily scare it away. And then it's one
Oh
of those
yeah.
moments where it's like, okay, like this was obviously not it. I tried, I embraced, and now I never want to embrace that part of myself again. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
people out there that are in that moment, which again, it goes back to that avoidance. It's like, I never want to have this feeling of
Yeah.
rejection, of avoidance, whatever that is,
Yeah,
ever again. And so, yeah.
totally. My partner and I have been really working with this framework of like it's kind of like this visual, like the growth edge, like as a visual place
Yeah.
of like there's kind of like there's a growing edge, and then there's what's on either side of it is like overwhelm, which is like when we just never want to go there, and then there's collapse where we like it's just like you're falling back into your old pattern.
Mm,
And it's like this very tangible place where we've been trying to really like work around. It's like, okay, when you go so far that your system like freezes and you shut down, you go into overwhelm, panic,
mhm,
like all these like super like emotions are really really triggered,
mhm.
then you can't grow there. Like
That's right.
that's like if you're pushing your partner's triggers to the point where they're going there, it's you're pushing too hard, right?
That's right.
But if you're just like if they have a trigger but you're not edging there, and you just kind of you're collapsing away from like their triggers, then you're also not going to get any growth. And this growing place is this like alive place. It's where vulnerability lives of
Mm,
like, okay, there's energy here. Like there's
yes.
energy here. Like it's like edgy,
Yes.
and it's like pushing, we're dancing, right? It's
Yes.
like but neither, like if either of us collapse or if either of us go into overwhelm, then the growth and the transformation can't happen.
Mm,
And like finding that like zone of tolerance, and for us that's been some around like boundary setting, around like how do we set this kind of bumper so that we're
mm,
not going into overwhelm, and how do we catch both of each other of going into collapse, of like when are we collapsing back into
mm.
just like kind of shut down or like giving up or giving in. And
Yes.
like I mean with my partner I've been like I can see when you're doing that, and like
Yes.
I as much as it like to my inner child is great because you're just like giving me exactly what I want, it's like I don't want that because we're not going to grow there. And so
Yes.
it's like if you collapse on me, and so I can feel it in his system, he can feel it in my system, we can call each other on it, so that it's like how do we stay in this alive place so that
Mhm.
neither of us are in shutdown or overwhelm, and we're in between those two places. And
Mm.
it's yeah, you know the triggers enough so that you can like stay in bounds, right?
Mhm.
It's kind of like a good zone to be. And you can
Yes.
like that has to be set up from the beginning, because like holy, like these things that come up in the dating field, the dating arena are intense,
Intense. Oh yeah.
so intense, like these
Yeah.
deep deep wounds of abandonment and rejection and
Yeah.
terror and intimacy, like
Unworthiness
there's
and yeah.
unword, like it's
Yeah.
just so much, right? Is there's just such tender places that like of course we don't want to go there, but you
Mhm.
can go there when you're being met. And you can like I think one of the growing edges for women is learning how to coach, like not like you're becoming a coach, but like learning how to set boundaries. So it's like okay, this is far enough, this is too far, like.
Mhm.
And finding for me that's been a really big like coming into my power of like I'm okay with this, I'm not okay with this, and like
Mhm.
finding that trueness in myself. And that with this current partner started really early, right? Like
Yeah.
that like quite like started like right away, and so it kept us in this growing living edge where we could really like evolve quite quickly,
Yeah.
right? Like we're not falling so much into like these same patterns that we then just get in a rut and then just like settle in for the next 30 years,
Mhm.
right? Or just like the relationship collapses.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to actually have a similar communication style, or at least be willing to get to know each other's communication style and to be willing to actually, ask one another after an interaction happens, right? This is how I showed up in this. How did that land for you? Or what did
Mm-hmm.
you think? Or how do you feel? Or how do you prefer that communication? Do you want me to
Yeah.
text you, or would you rather I wait and have the
Mm-hmm.
conversation in person? Or, like maybe one person communicates better via text because they can really hear themselves, read it through, think about it.
Yeah.
And some people do better in person. And so it's almost that, like those the 5 ways of loving, what is it called, 5 languages, love languages.
I love languages.
Yeah, 5 love
Yeah.
languages. And so it's typically, like we tend to prioritize the love language that we didn't experience growing up, and so we
Mm-hmm.
want that for ourselves because we didn't have it growing up, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like, what if we have opposite love languages? What if quality time is my love language, and I'm constantly begging you for time. And for
Mm-hmm.
you, it's gifts, for example, or acts of
Mm-hmm.
service, for example. So if I want to spend quality time and you want acts of service, I'm never doing anything of service to you and you're never making quality time. It's like we're never going to get on that same page. And it's not serving the person based on the way you want to be loved, but it's actually loving them the way that they want to be loved. You know, we hear it all the time from the Bible and moral teachings and, treat others the way you want to be treated. But I think it's more conscious and aware to treat people the way that they want to be treated and to
Mm-hmm.
really take the time to get to know your person, to really take the time to study your partner. And it doesn't happen overnight. And it's not something that, is just going to be very clear on their dating profile, or it's not going to be something
Totally.
that you're going to learn even through meeting other people, because we do evolve. They say meet your potential partner's friends or their family members or whatever, get to know who they hang out with in their workplace, or and then you really get to know their character.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, it's like being able to actually hold that space of vulnerability to say, this is who I am. In the way that you show up, this is how I show up, and this is what I'm noticing, and this is what's coming up for me. And then it's like, then you're really holding that space for transparency. And I think that's what's really missing is, number one, I think we're looking for things that are not realistic and also not aligned to who we truly authentically are, because I think most people don't genuinely know themselves deeply. So I think that's number one. But number two is being able to actually be okay with not knowing yourself and be okay with the discovery process,
Mm-hmm.
because we're all evolving. We're constantly evolving. I mean, there are certain cultures that require you to get remarried every 7 years because we change so much in 7 years. We become a
I love
completely
that.
different person, right?
Totally.
And
Yeah.
so it's just kind of interesting to see. And I think a lot of times we expect the person to be exactly who they said they were when we started dating. And then 10 years later, you look back and you're like, well, you've changed. Well, yeah, people change. Like, duh,
Yeah.
that's the whole point. We're meant to change, we're meant to evolve.
Yeah.
And so I just want to bring that sort of curiosity and playfulness and really call whoever's listening to be radically honest. Because at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, if you're never going to see this person again, anyways, why do you care what they think about your honesty instead
Mm-hmm.
of maintaining a lie for the sake of agreeability, or for the sake of, having it your way, or for the sake of being right? I think I see that a lot in dynamics in relationships. People would rather be right than choose
Be in
to
love.
love.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
be loved. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
You said it perfectly.
I yeah, or be safe instead of being in love. And I've been working with that even just in this past week and noticing when I like default to safety versus love. And it's like it's so alive, it's so ingrained,
Yeah.
like
And
when
it's
these are
not real safety.
and it's not real safety,
Yeah.
but it's deeply ingrained. And there's a part of you that is alive. Like there's parts of us, like there are ancestral parts of us that those wounds are coming through. Where like, okay, maybe for like generations and generations and generations of women who have like not been treated well, like there's a legitimate part of you who's like, really afraid to be vulnerable with a man. Great, like, but let's bring it up and like to bring it to the light and see it. Or there's like a little like a wounded inner child in you who's like terrified of vulnerability, and that part of you is being safe. But when you're a thriving, successful, grown woman looking for love, you don't really want your world being run by this terrified infant that doesn't even have words and is like, you want to be playing on the same team as that little infant, where you're like, hey, like let's find out what good like real love and like really beautiful love feels like let me show you, let me
Mm,
help you, come with me on this journey. But we can't
yes.
also just like ignore this, like, yeah, the safety piece of it. The safety piece of it is real. If we don't have enough safety in relationships, then relationship doesn't happen, right? Like the
Absolutely.
love can't happen. But if we're always choosing safety over choosing love and vulnerability and this growing edge, then it's not gonna be alive. Um,
Mm.
the other piece that I just really wanted to bring into the end of this, and I really was resistant to this when I first heard it. I heard it on a podcast from Layla Martin, who is a genius tantric goddess. Um, Everyone should look her up if you haven't. But she had these guests on. She was doing a series on divine union. She was like, because she was like single, and she's like, I know this is possible, but my brain is resistant to it. And I just want you to like talk to people that have like are in these kind of relationships enough that like my system figures it out.
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
that, like my brain like believes that, like truly believes that it's possible.
It's
And she had
possible. Yeah.
this couple on, and the woman had like they had infidelity in their partnership, and like they had like ridden through it, and obviously it was super super hard. But one of the comments that she made was, she's like, I realized that because we have, there's so many, there's 80, you said 80% of women are doing some sort of personal work. Great, we're actually the leaders,
Mm-hmm.
and we're actually not really used to being true leaders. We're kind
Mm-hmm.
of like, we've clawed our way, through the glass ceiling, and we've kind of like found these
Mm-hmm.
new legs. But now we've got all these like super conscious spiritual women, and men they're not like, they're there, they're waiting for us to like reach back and like help them. But it's like the divine feminine that actually allows the divine masculine to open. And I think
Mm.
when we get into this mindset of like, oh, men aren't doing their work, oh, men are falling behind, oh, men are just like whatever, it's like we're not taking this personal responsibility also to like take the work that we've done and be like, hey, look, follow me.
Mm.
Hey, like this is what it feels like to be in relationship with a really like divine like queen. Like
Mm.
queens can transform men into kings. You don't actually
Mm.
necessarily have to start there, but or that like energy, or you start as princes and prince archetypes and you get there together. Like there's actually
Yes.
there's no like set math for this.
Mm.
But I think this idea of, it's like, oh well, I'm not going to try just because like the odds are so low that I'm going to find this whatever.
Right.
It's like this additional personal responsibility that like, and I mean when I heard that I was like, oh shit, like I am definitely thought that, like I have definitely been behaving from that place of
Yeah.
like, what, we've had to claw our way here. We
Yeah.
have had like good lord, like the past century, the past like couple centuries of, or thousands of years of like women being subversive to men, like women being like lesser than men. And we're having this big shift in the world where the divine feminine energy is be like coming up to be seen, to be heard, to be felt, to rule the world. And part of that is like we need men to come with us. And it's not
Mm.
going to look the same, but
Mm.
it's this like, if we also like cut them out, or we like push them down, or we don't think that they're good enough or sensitive enough or kind enough or
Mm.
spiritual enough, we're actually not giving them the like there's all these like beautiful spiritual magical masculine men that are like waiting to like to be held and to be with a woman
Mm.
that can bring that out of them.
Mhm.
I think that's a really big shift for a lot of women. And like, I mean, people might get super mad at me for like saying that. I'll say like, I didn't say it first, but I heard it and I was super resistant to it. And
Yeah.
then it was like, oh yeah, like
Yeah.
dang it. Like we are in the driver's seat when it comes to this like personal development work.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that men are like we need to then like, yeah, to reach back and to like reach
Mm.
this hand out to be like, oh, we can lead. And like all men are sometimes more sensitive than women.
Uh-huh.
Like men are incredible providers, they're incredibly caring,
Yes.
like all they like,
Extremely
there's
loyal. Yeah.
extremely loyal, there's like all
Yeah.
these properties. But it's like we have to shift ourselves and to shift what we believe is possible for men. And
Mhm.
like one of the most divine men that I've ever been with operated machinery on the oil pipeline.
That's right. Yep.
There's like there, and he wasn't reading personal development books, and
Yeah.
he wasn't doing that, but he could hold space like no other. He
Yes.
like he could hold me. I was in medical school and I was like all over the place, and he was just like
Mhm.
solid provider, could listen, could
Mm.
provide reflection, could be that
Mm.
man that I really
Mhm.
needed him to be at that phase of my life. And it's like I tell people that and they're like, what do you mean you dated somebody on the oil pipeline? I'm like, I met this amazing man. I would never at that point have said yes to this person on a dating app.
Mhm.
Never.
Yes. Yeah.
That is like so super brutally honest. I would
Yeah.
never have said yes to him, but I met him in person and I felt his energy, and he was so trustworthy and so sensitive and so beautiful and so playful, and like all of these like beautiful, beautiful qualities that I would just not have expected to come out of the oil sector.
Yeah. Problem with
Like
online dating too. Those boxes, they're terrible boxes. They're not even like, that's not even the right questions to ask.
no,
Yeah, yeah.
no.
I'm going to say something that again, similar to you, everyone might hate me for it, but I believe that yes, we have become leaders. And yes, it's amazing that we are able to do so much, right? And that we can study and we can get degrees and we can become doctors and lawyers and nurses and, like just professionals in
Own
the
property and
workspace.
vote.
And we're like really amazing stay-at-home moms and
Oh yeah.
whatever it is, like race car drivers or whatever you want to become, you can become. And that's a beautiful thing. And call me old school, but I still believe that as a queen, to uphold the queendom, the kingdom, because
Hmm.
that's what it is,
Hmm.
the man is the leader of the household, of the space, of society, right? Not to say that there shouldn't be a female president. I'm not saying that at all. But I am
Hmm.
saying that in the dynamic of divine union, if we really get down to it about masculine and feminine energies, we are actually meant to, as the divine feminine embodied, be the vessel, hold the space, be that spiritual, as you said, the matriarch holds the
Hmm.
spirituality of the family. But we can only do that if we have a strong leader as the male, right? And so I
Hmm.
think it's just that identity of leadership, like I'm going to be the leader and I'm going to tell you what to do. That doesn't work with a man that's embodied in their divinity. It really doesn't. Like if you
Yeah.
meet any man who is in their divine masculine and they are really, truly, genuinely that provider, that strong leader, that, they're not going to have a woman telling them what to do. They're not.
But
Not
they
that they
will
won't hear
listen.
you, not that they won't,
Yeah.
right? They
Yeah.
will hold space to listen. They will
Yeah.
absolutely consider your perspective. But something that I
Hmm.
heard, early on kind of in our relationship that at first really triggered me, but it was because I was working through this part of me and really working
Hmm.
through this embodiment of the divine feminine. And this was the part of the divine feminine. And I talk about this in my mastermind for women. I have an upcoming Sexy Successful Mastermind, and it's for women to really dive deep and embody those sexy. And when I say sexy, it's not even about sex, but it's literally about that essence in us, that radiance, that magic in us that we have when we actually surrender all of the expectations, when we stop trying to be in competition, when we stop working hard and being that
Hmm.
perfectionist achiever. Look at me, rah, rah, I'm the leader. It's like, okay, let's put all that aside and let's
Yeah.
just really talk about the truth of who you really want to be and like how you want to show up in life. And it's like, okay, then we can soften and we can be ambitious. But we don't
Hmm.
have to be ambitious to the point where we drive everyone out of our lives, where we make, castrate every man around us just to
Hmm.
show that we're good at something or we're better at something. We're not meant to be better than, and we're meant to be able to work in harmony with each other. Right. And sure, I might be better at something than my partner is. He's definitely going to be better at other things that I'm not that great at. And so you find that space, that wiggle room. It doesn't mean that women automatically always cook and men always automatically take out the garbage. We're not talking about gender roles in that way, but I
Hmm.
do think there's a level of respect and there is a level of sort of that hierarchy, I believe. And not everybody has to agree with me, but I've seen that be very successful. And in relationships that are successful, that have longevity, it's that respect for each other's roles, whatever those roles are, whatever that decision very early on in the relationship, as you said, that contract that's established, that unwritten contract, those
Hmm.
agreements that we put in place, those boundaries that we set, those self-honoring that we actually get to communicate, we are meant to actually uphold and honor them. And there's a lot of men who are not comfortable in leadership positions, right? And so there are a lot of women who are. And so you're right, things have shifted. An actual massive majority of men who are not comfortable in that leadership position. And
There's
so
also
yeah,
been men who have been like castrated over and over and over again by women.
that's right.
And they're like, why would I put my neck out
Right.
and be
I
your
get slapped if
king?
I open the door. I get slapped if I don't open the door. I get slapped if I pay the bill. I get slapped if I don't pay the bill. Yeah.
Like literally anybody would give up in that scenario,
Yeah.
you know? And like that is such an important, it's like when we're looking at shifting this vision, and if, I would go more like be more supportive of like, okay, what happens if there is no hierarchy? Like, men in like him and his power, me and my power. So
Yes.
we're like differ a little bit in that, but I hear what you're saying. Like I hear that like it's like this man in his full power. Like he's not just gonna like this like idea of like happy wife, happy life, like I'm just gonna like get you like I'm gonna hold the space while you get away with your like bad behavior or like being in your
That's
triggers or
right.
whatever, and then just gonna let that go and like be like, oh whatever. Like I'll just take out the trash. And like, that's not a man in his power,
That's right.
right? We are looking for men in their power
That's
who are
right.
sometimes going to say, like, actually, no, like, I hear you, I love you, and like, you are like in your triggers right now, and this is not
Absolutely.
acceptable. And
Yes.
I know that you're for being in your power and
Mhm.
like evolving. And so, like, the answer is no, which
Yes.
is like that, like, and that is the
So
divine
sexy.
masculine
It's
of
so
the so
attractive.
sexy. It's like, God, have a man say no, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you're like, say it again.
Exactly. So this is what so this
Yeah.
proves my point completely.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's a single woman out there that actually wants to trample over her man. I
Mm-hmm.
believe that every woman out there, and again, when I say hierarchy, it doesn't mean better than, higher, above, or but when I say that,
Yeah.
it just means the dynamic. And we can hold it like this, or we can flip it on its side and say, that's
Yeah.
harmony, right?
Yeah.
And it truly is, and it's exactly that. But I really believe that we are best able to embody our divine feminine. And that's why divine union and doing the work within ourselves is so important. And I think you and I both, I mean, we did the triggers and traumas around mom wounds, dad wounds, our own, limitations. And it's only when you get through all of those things that you're able to create divine union within yourself, because you have optimized your divine feminine and how you show up for yourself. And you've optimized the divine masculine and how you show up for yourself. And so that is exactly what you are putting out in the world and attracting back to you. Right. And so it just, again, shows the value of taking the time to see life as a mirror, which we started the conversation about. I'm going to bring it back to that.
Cycle back.
But really being able to see people as they are and appreciate them as they are, and just say thank you, whatever the experience is. But to be able to take that back and say, okay, what parts didn't I like? What was that thing that I didn't enjoy? And as you said earlier, how is that a reflection of how I'm showing up? Because that's what we're going to attract. And if you see dating that way, it's so fun, because if you document it, you'll see your evolution of yourself as you go through, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for the conversation. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add. I think we covered so much. I feel like we could talk
We
forever.
covered so much. I feel like we're just edging into this like divine masculine space, and I think we've got space for another podcast there. So we'll just kind of let's just let that lie,
Simmer. Yeah.
and we can come back. We can come back to that later, because I was like, oh my God, I have so much to say, but
Yes.
we're just gonna table that for now.
Love it. I love it. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Rebecca. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for your passion in the space. How can people find you if they want to sign up for this program and they want to be in it and they're like, I want to know everything. I want to start tomorrow. How do they sign up?
Yeah. Yeah. So my website is madeformiracles.ca. You'll find me there. The website, the course is there. I'm hosting this 6 week long like group coaching container. There'll be a little bit of coaching combined with teaching a lot of these same conversations that we're having right now. Like, we're just going to get into that for the participants. It's going to be a pretty small group. Like, I'm capping it at 10 to 12. And yeah, weekly meetings for 6 weeks at madeformiracles.ca is where you can find me. And I'm Dr. Rebecca Reid, Dr. REBECCAREID on Instagram.
Perfect. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Rebecca. I'm just so grateful to be able to have these conversations and be hot and sweaty and uncomfortable and do this together, because it's so needed. It's so, so needed. And yeah, getting raw and real and uncomfortable is exactly what we're asking people to do. So it's beautiful to
Here we
be here
are.
with you. I
Yeah.
love it.
So thank you so much. It's so good to have this conversation, and so good to be here.
It was. Thank you. I look forward to the next one. We'll see you soon.
Good. Sounds
Take
good.
care.
Bye.